Hello everybody, Ace here, giving it to you straight with day 59 of the Video Log Challenge, and today I wanted to talk to you about what does it mean to be. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this subject today was that has been the focus of mine lately because I have not been able to stop, I have not been able to rest, I have not been able to relax. As of now, making this video, obviously that's something I've been able to do. But as of the last week, even through those other videos I was making, I was struggling putting the cart before the horse and not really understanding how to just be again, how to rest, how to stop, how to relax. And so, yesterday being a pretty mentally frantic day, I think I was going through a boss battle anyway. I decided to do a little brain dump purge that I like. I call them brain dumps. And what I do is I just start with a question I pose to myself, and then that takes me all the way through to answers I didn't even know because I'm asking questions I didn't even know to begin with. And so I'm going to take you through kind of what I wrote down and how it kind of took me on this a little bit of I did some research. I really pondered. I channeled a lot. I flowed a lot. And for me, what I came to understand, what I came to understand, is that it has everything to do with this whole 0 point concept and what I believe 5D consciousness is all about. So the first question I asked myself is about 10:36 o'clock in the morning. I said, "What does it mean to be?" Because I really wanted to know, like, why can't I be? And because I can't figure out why I can't be, let's figure out what it is or what it means to just be. And then the next thing I wrote is I am being. Right now in this moment as I am being, I am a being, I am, comma, being, I am being. I mean, that if we really start to dig into these words that we throw around all the time, especially the spiritual community, and really see how many layers and how deep they go, we can really start to unlock our language. And I think when we unlock our language, we unlock our lives. And at this point in time, I wrote, I am projecting my beingness onto others. The way I was thinking about this is when I'm in an uncomfortable part of my life, I tend to project that discomfort onto others. Maybe not so much now in terms of literally projecting that onto them, but in my head, creating false arguments, creating judgments, all that stuff is projecting your beingness or your lack of beingness onto those around you because we simply are mirrors. So how do we project beingness and how do we become multidimensional? Do we become multidimensional by projecting beingness, or do we become multidimensional by simply being? And how do we become multidimensional in the present now moment? To me, that is the 0 point. I'm going to grab a drink real quick. How deep does it go? How deep does a 0 point go? How many layers are there? How many levels? Is the 0 point at the soul level? Are we the 0 point? The more us we become, the more closely we get to the 0 point. So as I'm kind of working through these ideas, as I'm kind of working through this idea of what does it mean to be, I get back to the concept of 0 point in correlation with higher consciousness that we're all unlocking and we're all elevating as we're going through this ascension. And the final thing I wrote was the more us, the more we become our unique frequency, right? The more we become the person we design ourselves to be, the human being we design ourselves to be in this life, the more close we get to that 0 point, which is that elusive pie in the sky, higher consciousness goal. And I really wanted to understand what 0 point was because nobody really talks about it and breaks it down. We kind of use it as a fluff term. And as the spiritual community, and especially as the healers, and as the leaders, and as the teachers, and the shepherds, and the way showers, we really need to understand even the concepts we apply to our own selves, to our own lives. And we need to be able to break it down Barney style because people are spiritual toddlers. Some aren't even spiritual babies yet. Some haven't even been born or reborn like we have. And so this is the time to go within and really study this stuff and really understand it for you, because all you can do is be the shepherd and go, this is my experience and this is the best way I can explain it. And there will be people who relate to you and your specific frequency that you're putting out, or your vibration that you're putting out, and you'll actually help them unlock and remember who they are. So what is the 0 point? To me, it is unity, Christ consciousness. If we're a unique fractal of God with a goal of becoming and being at the 0 point, then we must strive in God's direction, following our unique path. So God sent Yeshua to us to show us the way to Him, right? Follow. I'll show you the way to God. Follow God. I'll show you the way, right? Which is through your heart, which is through your spiritual, through your human trauma to unlock the oasis in your soul. It's the path of being human. When you walk that path, but you do it to the most unique and as much you as you can. That's the point of this. That's why being human's a framework, is because we are a unique signature of God, and we have to be as much that unique signature as possible for us to then continue to grow and ascend, and then to become Him, so that He then can become the next level wherever He goes after this, right? Some say He's the all being that has ever. I just don't. If it's infinite, then I think there's layers, and the Godhead that's created all, that's the energy source cloud. But I believe that the God that has been kind of overlooking this universe, because if there's multiverses, then there's multiple gods, right? That's our God, the God that created this universe, and we are following His path. So God's will, God's word is His, but because we are Him in a unique signature, we need to find that path that's unique to us and follow it for ourselves. So here's a framework for you to follow on your path to the Godhead, but you need to walk it as unique and as special for you as possible, because that's why you're here, and that's why you're living your unique vibratory experience. That was a lot. If we're a unique fractal of God with a goal of becoming and being at the 0 point, then we must strive in God's direction, following our unique path. I call this an evolutionary paradox, because at the same time we need to do what God does, but do it our way. You see? So this isn't math class growing up where you get the problem right, but it isn't the way that the teacher wanted you to, and so you got the problem half wrong. That doesn't make any sense. God wants you to figure it out your way, but here's a framework to follow, because that's the way. I also call that salvation. So to me, 0 point is salvation. It's the evolutionary paradox. It's unity, Christ consciousness. It's the goal of becoming and being at the 0 point. To me, that is salvation. It's all for experience, though. This entire path to the 0 point, this entire evolution through life on this planet, through incarnations in this planet, they were all for experience, not necessarily just to experience. I think we get that confused. I think we forget a lot about the human experience in this life as spiritual beings, because we think that we're here for an experience, or we're here to experience, but in reality we're here for experience. And in order to gain experience, we have to go through the trials and tribulations, not just have experiences, not just have good times. We have to have the mountains, the valleys, the lefts, the rights, the ups and downs, because that gives us the contrast and the total perspective, then to choose the 0 point, because it's all choice, to choose unity consciousness, which is 5D, which is going through the trauma of your past, which is clearing your temple, which is elevating yourself and ascending into the 5th dimension, and then to move into the Christ consciousness, which is truly coming together as one. I believe 5D consciousness is our work within ourselves, and 6D consciousness is the work we do outside of ourselves together to come together. God gamified the universe for us. So when He created everything in this universe, He gamified it for us. So it really is like an RPG. If you ever played a video game where you are a character that starts off at level 0, and then you have to grow the character up, and reach certain levels, and you unlock certain powers, and you unlock new armor, new ability to do things. I mean, it's literally like life, and it's basically like the simulation that we're living, a very real and not real simulation at the same time, which we've discussed before. But God created the universe, and He gamified it for us so that we would actually have fun. But unlike people like me, where I'm all work no play, and I have been my entire life, learning to have fun is part of my work now. I have to actually learn how to stop. I have to learn how to rest. I have to learn how to relax. I have to learn how to have fun, how to experience again. Because what's crazy is I'm thinking all this work is where I'm going to gain all my experience. But in reality, if I'm not applying that experience, or if I'm not having fun at the same time, all those experiences that I could be having, I'm not having, and I'm not actually growing. And I'm not showing up where I need to be showing up for the universe to work through me. And then I'm also not serving humanity, because I'm not serving myself, because I'm not showing up. And that's why it's a giant game. That's freaking reals. Yeah. So I understand. It's a paradox. Those who have the most fun gain the most experience. And those who think the most gain the most knowledge. Knowledge and experience to me equals wisdom. The key is in finding the 0 point between knowledge and experience, thinking and experiencing, consciousness and existence. And so something I do a lot with my teaching and with my instruction is I use equations, I use word equations to help people better break down concepts and understand how they flow together. I like to use terms, so you'll hear me a lot saying surrender, let go, and accept, because I feel like that's a equation to move forward on your spiritual path. You have to surrender to the fact that you need to do it. You need to accept the fact that you're going to do it, and then you need to let go of the fact that you need to think about it and just do it. And if you can start repetitiously applying these concepts and these equations, you'll see changes in your life, from my personal experience. And so I replaced thinking and experiencing, which those are the two elements of being human, right? So the human is the one experiencing, and the consciousness is the one that's thinking at the same time. Consciousness is the one observing, but as a consciousness being in a vehicle, the human does, and then we take in that information as the consciousness and we make sense of it, and then the human vehicle thinks, and then we take it into our consciousness and we make sense of it. What happens oftentimes is that we're getting stuck becoming the thinking or becoming the doing, when we're not, when we're the beer, we're the beingness behind the doing and the thinking. And so I replaced thinking and experiencing. So thinking is now consciousness and experiencing is now existence. And I'm going to plug and play with those words. So the 0 point, which is the focal point between consciousness and existence. So consciousness is existence, and existence is consciousness. You got to start playing with these words. You got to start interchanging words, because a lot of times we throw words around and they don't mean what we think they mean, and sometimes we don't think certain words actually mean the same thing. Now, consciousness and existence isn't the same thing, but it is, because it's the same thing, two sides to the same coin. So you can't exist without consciousness, and you can't have consciousness without existence. And that's why they play together. And the is between them, consciousness is existence and existence is consciousness, that's the 0 point. And the 0 point is equals be. So now we're moving from what does it mean to be, it means to is. So if we replace what does it mean to be with what does it mean to is, and then we start interjecting words, right? And we start playing around with it like it's almost like a mathematical equation, but it's a logical equation. That's when we start to understand the reality of our world. And there's a class I took in college called Logic. It's a philosophy class. And I think that was one of the best classes I took in college, one of the hardest ones, because it started to break the illusion of the matrix thinking processes for me. Because the way they taught me in school for so long was illogical. And all of a sudden I take a class called Logic and it makes me think a completely different way, like the way I'm doing here with this brain dump. And that's when I really started to see, none of this makes sense. And that's when I started asking the right questions, because I was no longer following everyone else's lead. So the 0 point is, and is equals be. Being is existence, and being is consciousness. So you can't have consciousness without existence, and you can't have existence without consciousness. So being is existence, and being is consciousness. So again, the Trinity, Holy Trinity of being, consciousness, and existence, they all have to work together in synergy, in balance, in harmony for you to continue forth on your spiritual evolution and not get stuck in the karmic cycles of this earth plane like we have for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. Some of us millions of years, legitimately. So being is the 0 point and human is the vehicle to get there. Being is consciousness, consciousness is being be consciousness, consciousness be being, is equals be. Consciousness being existing, a consciousness being existing, existence being consciousness. And then from that whole weird word thing, this is kind of what I pulled from that. A consciousness being existing consciously and experiencing through a human vehicle that can think. We are not the consciousness vehicle, but the consciousness existing in the vehicle that thinks its experiences into reality, literally a God vehicle. Be equals is. Consciously existing being, existence, consciousness, being. We are not the consciousness vehicle, but the consciousness existing in the vehicle that thinks its experiences into reality, literally a God vehicle. That is why we have to get through the trauma of our past, not just this life, but all past incarnations, in order to move into the 5D, remember, recollect, rediscover, or discover again who we are, what we are, why we are here, because we are thinking our experiences into reality and believing that we're not. And that separation, that fear that we're separate from God, that we're less than from God, is exactly why we're in the situation we're in this world, which to me is a wonderful situation because we're being reborn and we're being forced to. But if we don't understand what the heck is happening, there have been other times where there's been golden ages on earth and we've gone back down into darkness because humans didn't do the work. I don't believe that this is this time. I believe there are plenty of enlightened beings that are here doing it all over again. And that is why I decided to pick up this path and start just teaching this stuff. I don't know how I know this stuff, people. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know where this gets channeled. It really just comes from my spirit and from my heart, and it must come from all the other lives I've lived, because I don't know where it comes from. It wasn't from this life. All the human stuff is what I got from this life. A lot of the human experience, a lot of the relatability, a lot of the stories and things like that. Yeah, I lived a fast, hard life in a short amount of time as a human, but my beingness, since I've unlocked that, it's just this stuff just comes through. So consciously existing being is an existence consciousness being. The consciousness pulls from the quantum, right? From the field of quantum, the field of possibility. And then the vehicle turns and conjures it into reality through the vibrations it pushes out. This is human existence. Human and existence. The quantum is God source energy. The consciousness is God source energy. The existence in form is God source energy. And all three of these work together in tandem to manifest both this existence and experience. Existence being consciousness, experience being wisdom. Through existing, we have wisdom, consciousness. Through experience, we gain wisdom, human. Through consciousness, we have wisdom, consciousness. Through being, we gain wisdom, human. Human and the consciousness, the human and the being, work together in tandem to gain wisdom, which is then used to lighten up and move forward on our spiritual path, which is gaining just higher and higher vibration and frequency and resonance. So what is wisdom? Wisdom, the quality of having experience and knowledge along with sound judgment. Is wisdom the byproduct of it all? Is it the goal? So wisdom being experience, right? Which is being, form, human, right? That's the experience. A being in form, which is human. Knowledge, which is consciousness, thinking with a brain and heart, because that's what we think with. We think with our heart first and our brain second. But through the 3D and through the illusion, we get stuck up here with the tool and we freak out about what's going on here because we're not spending all the time down here. Well, this is where my heart is just mirrored. If you're one of those people who have their heart on the other side, that's nuts. Okay, anyway, sorry. And then judgment, sound judgment, right? Judgment is a thinking being in conscious form with a human heart uses discernment to gain wisdom. Now I'm going to go a little deeper, because what is judgment? So we have experience being form and human, a human being in form, knowledge, which is the thinking consciousness with the brain and heart, and sound judgment, which is a thinking being in conscious form with a human heart and brain using it with discernment to then gain the wisdom necessary to then evolve. So what is judgment? And I wrote down these definitions. First definition of judgment is the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. Facts. We use judgment every day, every moment of every day, to survive and then also to thrive. Judgment, a misfortune or calamity viewed as a divine punishment. The illusion, 3D matrix. Adjudication, the evaluation of evidence to make a decision, considered decisions. Adjudication is a legal term, but to me, adjudication is what God talks about in when he says judgment. The church and religion and all that have manipulated into this, you're going to be judged and punished. But in reality, it's an adjudication where all God does is take in the evaluation of all the evidence to make a decision that's and considered decisions based on your life, which you are God, so you do the same thing. It's adjudication. And so what are the 4 types of decisions that can be made through judgment of adjudication in a legal sense? You have informal, which are opinions expressed as facts. You have informal psychological, which are wisdom or discernment. These are opinions, right? These are opinions expressed by the judges when they rule. But because God is the ultimate judge, jury, and everything else, right? He's the ultimate judge. And the law of one, to me, adjudication makes more sense than the other two, which the first definition being the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions is the human. A misfortune or calamity to me is the ego, and adjudication is the being. That's God's definition for it. The first opinion is informal, opinions expressed as facts. We do that every day. We call that conjecture. The second is informal and psychological. So we take into account wisdom, and we use the wisdom to discern our judgments to make a better, more informed decision. It's informal, but it's informed. Then we have a legal opinion, which is weighted by evidence. That legal opinion, so to speak, is when you go before the council or the gates of God or whatever you want to talk about, the gates of heaven, and they passes judgment on you. It's not judgment as in for punishment. It's in adjudication. He's going to weigh all the evidence of your life, all the evidence of your existence, and then determine what your next step is. And then you have the religious 3D matrix, which is salvation and deliverance from soul consequence. Now, if we were to express it from a spiritual lens and not a religious lens, all salvation is deliverance from soul consequence, which is that sin. I'll get into sin in a little bit. And this is what I gathered through this whole thing is through the experience and knowledge gained, a thinking being in conscious form uses a human brain and heart to discern reality through opinions, wisdom, and evidence gathered across lifetimes on its own unique vibratory path designed by the God source energy to reach its salvation or deliverance from consequence of sin, which is unity Christ consciousness. That's the 0 point. And all sin is choice and action. Let me read it again. Through the experience and knowledge gained, a thinking being in conscious form uses a human brain and heart to discern reality through opinions, wisdom, and evidence gathered across lifetimes. On its own unique vibratory path, designed by the God source energy to reach its salvation or deliverance from consequence of sin, which is of malchoice or malaction, and that deliverance of consequence from sin is unity Christ consciousness, where you become one with the Godhead, one with all, one with everything, still in form, but that is Yeshua. That was the path of Yeshua, and then he became an ascended master, went on to the seventh density, where he could no longer hold light, or could no longer hold form, because his frequency was too high, and that is what the path we're on, the unity Christ consciousness path to becoming an ascended master, if that's so what you choose in this life or lifetimes. That's the goal, at least for me. And if you're watching these videos, most likely for you. So what is sin? Choices and actions that go against yourself. That's all sin is. Yes, you can sin by stealing from someone else, by hurting someone else, by doing all these other things to other people, but in reality, you're doing something to someone else. You're really doing it to yourself because we're all one. So in the end of the day, what is sin? It is choice and action that goes against yourself. It goes against your morals. It goes against your beliefs. It goes against your ethics. And not your ego beliefs, not your ego morals, not your ego ethics. We're talking about your heart center. When you're not guided by your heart center, when you're in a state of fear, in a state of separation, that is a state of sin because you're choosing and taking actions that take you further away from who you are, what you are, and why you are here. Sin is nothing crazy. You don't get, I used to think when I was a kid, you get little tick marks. Like God has like a little body chart, right? Like a little body chart, which I guess in a way you hold that emotion, but God has these little body charts. And every time you sin, you get a little black mark on this body chart. And then eventually when your whole body is marked up, it's in a way that could potentially be it, but I really think it's in the form of emotion. But in reality, we are our own gods. Together we are God, and we are still serving God because it's all one. One is the same. And so it's your choices and actions. It's my choices and actions. And that is even what we think and say and do, especially what we think, say, and do. Because that is what creates our reality, because we are the consciousness. We are the immortal consciousness using this vehicle to manifest. We forgot who we are. And so we're sloppy manifestors because we think we're less than and separate from the divine. What is sin? Choices and actions that go against yourself, your morals, ethics, that are compromising yourselves or ourselves at the expense of ourselves. Deliverance from temptation and sin is exercising sound judgment by using the wisdom gained in this life and previous ones to make the best choices and choose the best actions in that given now moment. You can always look into the past and go, I wish I knew then what I know now, but you don't. But by going into your past and looking at it and then taking the wisdom, using discernment to take the wisdom and lessons from it to then use in further things that may happen to you in this life and further challenges and further boss battles. That's all this is. That's all deliverance from temptation and sin is using sound judgment. And the more light you bring in and the more you remember, the more you can access your Akashic records, which just holds all of the knowledge and wisdom gained from all other lifetimes, so that all of a sudden you find yourself in these weird situations and you're like, I know what to do. I don't know why, but I'm just going to trust it. That's intuition. That's intuition. 0 point is where wisdom, trust, and letting go come together. Pure consciousness and pure existence. This is what being is. Let me read that again. I'm going to start one back. Sin are choices and actions that go against ourselves, our morals and ethics that compromise ourselves at the expense of ourselves. To gain deliverance from temptation and sin is us choosing and exercising sound judgment by using the wisdom gained in this life and previous ones to make the best choices and choose the best actions in that given now moment. The 0 point is where wisdom, trust, and letting go come together, pure consciousness and pure existence. This is what being is. So what is salvation then? Deliverance from harm, ruin, or loss. Redemption, act of being saved from sin, evil, or error. Deliverance, act of being rescued or set free. We do all these things for ourselves through this path of being human. How is salvation achieved energetically? Through being the most unique vibration of yourself as you can be. Through acquiring lived experience, through attaining thoughtful knowledge, through choosing sound judgments, we gain the wisdom necessary to deliver us from harm, ruin, or loss, and the faith that it will set us free. Thoughts, words, actions, surrender. Thoughts are consciousness and existence. Words are being and experience. Actions are human in form, and surrender is faith and salvation, salvation being the 0 point. Is faith the 0 point, or is salvation the 0 point? Or is salvation the end of faith? Because to me, I didn't start to heal. I didn't really get further on my journey. I was spinning my wheels and just crying, literally crying and freaking out and just begging God to help me. And it wasn't until I surrendered and I prayed and I asked for help and I had faith for the first time in over a decade did my life start to, I wouldn't say, yeah, I say it would even out, because look where I am now. I did it all on my own. I did it the Matrix way. I did it the 3D way. I did it the way I thought was the right way, and it didn't work. So I surrendered, I asked, and then what came was this path of being human. And God needed me to walk it for myself so that then I can teach everyone else, so that then you all can then teach other people as well, as save yourselves, gain salvation for yourselves. And through salvation is where we gain the 0 point. Because until we save ourselves, until we enlighten ourselves, we can't access the 0 point. And we definitely can't maintain it. The living kingdom. So is faith the 0 point? Or is faith the tool to get us there? Because faith is letting go. Faith is surrender. Faith is existence. Faith is being. Faith is being human. Faith is salvation. Faith is experience. And faith is existence. Is faith the golden thread to the 0 point? Is the 0 point salvation? Deliverance from loss, ruin, or evil, or sin at the 0 point? You want for nothing, need for nothing. You are all and everything. Is faith the golden thread to the 0 point? Is the 0 point salvation? Or is the zero point, as we just worked through, is the 0 point what comes after salvation? Because salvation is deliverance from loss or ruin or evil or sin. And the 0 point is where you want for nothing, need for nothing. You are all and everything, which means you have no fear, which means you're not separate, which means you've already been saved, and it means you've already saved yourself. And I'm closing up here. This is a long one. So the 0 point is unity Christ consciousness, and faith is the golden thread to get there. Only through faith can we reach salvation. And what is faith? The complete blind trust in something that is both you and bigger than you at the same time. And that is where my whole path this last couple of weeks, my struggle, or I call it my boss battle. It's not a struggle, it's a challenge. That whole boss battle was all about that. Trust. Trust in myself, trust in the universe, trust in God, trust in my path, trust in the plan, trust. And that is what this world is missing a lot of right now. We are missing trust. And all the 0 point is trust. The more that we can let go and trust, the more that we can forfeit these broken programs in our heads that are not real. We are not these thoughts. We are not these bodies. We are not these vehicles. We are the consciousness. We are the all-spark beings. That is what being is. What does it mean to be? It means to trust in faith. Faith in yourself. Faith in God. Faith in the universe. That's all this is. That's all it takes. Easier said than done. But something that's really been helping me is doing research into the spiritual knowledge, the spiritual teachings. I'm going to leave some links below to a couple people that have really helped me unlock a whole new level of understanding of the spiritual path, because it's not the muddled religious texts and teachings that have just been mistranslated. They are pure channelings from the archangels and from the logos gods that run the different councils, and from the, what do they call them? I'm blanking right now. But anyway, I'm going to leave those links below. I've been studying them. They've been helping me a lot. They talk about the rainbow body. They talk about ascension. They talk about the sevenfold flames and really different visualization techniques to start to reenact, right? Reopen, re-engage your imagination, that childlike imagination. In reality, that's just your beingness. Being is being innocent. It's being a child, but it's not being a child. It's being a multidimensional being that's full of light and love and couldn't imagine hurting anything or anyone. That's regaining innocence in reality. That's being childlike. is loving unconditionally, but we lost that, and that's okay. We chose to lose that. We chose to forget. We chose to break. We chose to remember. We chose to heal, and we chose to be here at this exact moment, at this exact time, learning how to be, learning how to trust, learning how to have faith again, and learning who we are, what we are, and why we are here. I'm so grateful to walk this path with you. I'm so grateful to be a part of this with you. I love you all very much. And I'm excited to see what these next couple of years bring, because this thing is really starting. It's happening, people. It's really happening. So if you liked what you've seen and heard today, hit that like button. If you want to join the Army of Energy, hit that subscribe button. If you want to hit me up on email, you can check me out at damahwolf@gmail.com. If you want to donate to my work, I'd be so grateful. It'd go a very long way. I have my Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal links down below. Again, I'm leaving those links to some of that spiritual research. Again, I have the links to Dirt if you're trying to clear your temple. I have links to Hemisync if you're trying to clear your God brain, right? Your God mind, so that you can use this consciousness freely. You can use this mind as a tool. And just thank you all for being here, and thank you all for consistently showing up with me and watching the content and engaging with me and doing the work and being courageous and doing what you have to do. It is helping. We are moving forward. I believe the darkness is gone. I believe all that's left is the little bit of trauma, the collective trauma and the collective psyche of humanity. And I think the more we do our work, the more we help purge that. So I really hope you gain a little bit more clarity on your path today. I hope you get a little bit further on your journey. I hope you can bring a little bit more love into your heart, so that you can understand that being, or just to be, is to trust in something that's bigger than you and you at the same time, because you are everything and you are perfect just like you are. I love you all, and I'll see you all at the same time tomorrow. Have a great afternoon and even better evening. Goodbye.